Hello and welcome to the HumanWare See Things Differently podcast. Each month, join your hosts Peter Tucic, Rachel Ramos, and David Woodbridge as we bring you engaging interviews from guests, interaction from our one-of-a-kind distribution partners, stories that'll take you off the beaten path, current promos, shows where you can find us, and so much more. So stick around. Hi everyone, this is Rachel. I have a quick pre-recorded announcement from Peter that I'd like to play at the beginning of the show. Without further ado, here we go.
I am going to thank each and every one of you who listens, and each and every one of you who maybe I've interacted with over the last 10 years that I've been at HumanWare. I have made a very tough decision to move forward and do some other things, and I wouldn't call it forward, moving on. I think it's time for me to take a bit of time off the road and spend some time with my family, and I'm going to be taking an opportunity to do some more local work around the state of Illinois and here in Chicago. But I have appreciated getting to know every one of you, whether you've attended HumanWare Live webinars or other user webinars I've done over the years, if we've corresponded over email. If you've enjoyed this podcast, it's about to get a lot better because I won't be here. So David and Rachel are going to just make it shine, more so than Peter's. I say too much, so that needs to be remedied. I never took a good course on true effective podcasting, but I've really appreciated all of you. And if you do hear me or see me somewhere along the way, because I will still be floating around here and there, conferences or other things, come find me, say hello, and tell me you want to get a coffee or some kind of beverage. I'm always open to anything. But I've really appreciated being a part of this for such a long time, and the podcast has been a short part of this for the last 5 months, but certainly know that I'm so proud of HumanWare. I'm so proud of what we've done. What HumanWare will continue to do is going to be exciting. There's lots of neat things coming, whether it be with the Monarch and other products. There's so many great things on the horizon, and I've been so unbelievably fortunate to be a part of it. And it's meant a lot to me to get to know so many amazing people throughout our field. And whether it's education or for the professionals or the retirees or the hobbyists or the Braille transcribers or the students, the users that I've been able to talk with over the years, I've appreciated it tremendously. So thank you to all of you. Thank you for continuing to listen, and thank you for supporting HumanWare and all of the things we do and have done for the last 35 years. Thank you, everybody. And we'll be back with See Things Differently next month on July 17th. Thank you all. Good morning, good day, good afternoon, good evening, good 4 o'clock hour for me. And you, Rachel. It's 4 o'clock. But for David, as always, what time is it, David?
Oh, look, it's 1 a.m. in the morning. No, it's not. It's actually 7:30 a.m. It's very nice.
See, one of these times, I'm telling you, we will flip the script. It will be, 3 a.m. for me, so you can get a nice, I guess that would be 6 p.m. We need to do one at a normal time for you. How about 2 p.m. for you? So 11 p.m. for us. Rachel and I will be up really late, and it'll be fair. Would that be fair?
That would be awesome. It would be awesome, yes.
Yeah, we need to work on that. We're going to do it. And you'll sound you'll have a pep in your step,
Indeed.
From the feedback we get at podcast@humanware.com, everyone says you sound so tired. They feel like you're always here in the morning. No one said that.
No, listen, I work 24 hours, 7 days a week, mate.
No one has said that. But if you do have those kind of thoughts, you can always email us, podcast@humanware.com. How's it going, Rachel?
How's it going, Peter? Greetings, salutations, what's up?
I'm glad you have a computer that doesn't make you sound like you're under the water.
Me too. That was exciting. I'll need to investigate after we record and make it sound good.
Yeah, we need to put an outtake of you saying hello everyone right in the middle of this, and just hello everyone, but on that other computer so they can hear what you could have sounded like on this podcast.
Oh dear.
Welcome to June, and this month we're going to be talking about an event that occurs every June annually for the last many years, and we'll hear exactly how many years coming up. But we are going to be talking about the Braille Challenge. And really, the Braille Challenge is something I was first exposed to about 10 years ago. Would it be 10 years ago this year? And it's an event. It is a competition. It is one of a kind, truly one of a kind. We're going to dive into exactly what it is, but it takes place every summer. The finals, at least, take place every summer. The actual events will take place throughout the spring. And we are going to hear from a friend of mine, a new mom, an awesome person in general, Madeleine Hernandez, who is the National and Youth Programs Manager at Braille Institute in sunny SoCal. Is it sunny, Madeleine?
It is. It's beautiful.
Welcome to See Things Differently, the podcast.
Delighted to be here. Thanks for having me.
You're welcome. We're fired up, and I know that many people, I think, especially in this country, are aware, of Braille Challenge, who are younger, who maybe have recently graduated school, or have gone through good old K-12 education in the last 25 years. But can you give us a brief overview of what Braille Challenge is? And then I'm gonna ask questions for you too, but I want to talk Braille Challenge. Then we're gonna talk about how you kind of support Braille Challenge, which is pretty cool.
Absolutely. So Braille Challenge is the only academic competition of its kind for students in grades 1 through 12 who are blind or visually impaired and who read and write Braille. And what it does is it provides a platform for students to hone their Braille skills, which, as you all know, are essential to academic and employment success. And beyond that, it provides a space for our students to make friends and develop lifelong friendships.
And is it something that, I'm assuming it started it was hyper-local. Now it's such a national event and even international event, but when did it start?
This year, we are celebrating our 25th anniversary. So Braille Challenge has been around for a quarter of a century. It started in the year 2000 in Southern California. And since then, we've expanded to 36 U.S. states and 4 countries outside of the U.S. So we're so proud of the growth that we've seen in 25 years. Over that 25 years, we've reached nearly 22,000 students in participation.
That's awesome. Including Rachel. You reached Rachel.
Yes, we did.
Many moons ago.
You did. 20 years ago.
They reached you.
They did.
20 years. So you were there. You were at the first before the quarter turn.
That's right. 2004 and 2006. Madeleine, how did this expand? I was living on the East Coast at the time, and I competed in my school and then was able to go out to the finals, which was so much fun. I'd never been out to California at the time. So how did that expand? Because as Peter mentioned, you reached me, and I had so much fun at the competition.
Yeah, so we started in Southern California in Orange County through our Braille Institute office, and we have partnerships across the U.S. and contacts, and our first regional that we held was in New England, and they've been participating for 25 years as well. So it started with having students in Southern California, then in New England, and then 2 years later we added Oklahoma, and since then we've just been adding new partners, new regionals across the country. I think after that it was Iowa, Nebraska, Florida. And typically these have been through contacts at schools for the blind or other agencies that serve the blind and visually impaired. And with these partnerships, they identify how important it is to bring this type of program to their students. And that's why we've seen so much growth over these 25 years. And just slowly but surely, we've just been expanding, and it's been great.
And I know, people think Braille Challenge, and when we think of Braille, we think of, it's something we read. The Braille Challenge is not just reading Braille. I know it certainly is, there's reading components, but what makes up a typical Braille Challenge event?
There's so many pieces to this. So it's primarily for students in grades 1 through 12. They're split up into 5 categories based on their age. And then based on their age, they take either 3 or 4 different contests. And those are proofreading, reading comprehension, speed and accuracy, spelling, and charts and graphs. That is Braille Challenge at its most basic level. A student participates in those contests and either reads and answers the questions, or for speed and accuracy, they listen to an audio passage and transcribe what they're hearing. But Braille Challenge in itself can be so much more than that, because we always invite partners in the field to provide parent workshops, or we provide entertainment or connect students with resources in their communities. So as much as it is about Braille literacy and celebrating that, it's also about getting students connected with their resources in their communities, meeting other families and students, making friends, so many more aspects to it.
Yeah, I totally agree. And as someone who's been to many Braille Challenge finals and some regionals as well, just that level of connection, getting families together from different corners of the world, well, I mean, of the country, of the state, of the region you're in, is very cool. And I think what's even neater is not only do the contestants come in, but their families are there, their siblings are there. And I think so often the blind kiddo, that blind participant, is going to their siblings' baseball game or hockey game or something, just kind of sitting there, right, with not being a part of the action. Where this pulls in families where, you know, that whole competition is centered around that blind child, that Braille reader. And so it puts the other family members in that spectator seat that maybe sometimes, you know, the blind kid is in and never gets to get out of. So I think that's very, very cool.
Absolutely. And that's one of the important aspects of this program, is providing students with a platform for experiencing an academic competition in something that is for them and that they're experts in. And I think that's really exciting to be able to have that arena for these students.
And so to get kind of into the other side, and now it has grown. And I know that last year at Braille Challenge, I met some of the UK contingent that was there. I know in years past we've had quite a few Canadians, and now David, you are in the fold as of last year, right? Because Australia's on board. So how did that kind of come about? And I want to hear from you, David, you know, just as to kind of what you've seen at the Braille Challenge. But Madeleine, how has that been? I know it's got to be a long way. I mean, having a competition that is so U.S. centric or North American centric, and then trying to bring in these others and say, you're part of this, and by the way, we're gonna bring you to L.A. from London. I'm sure that's a bit tricky. And how has that gone? And has it been different to do this North American kind of Braille Challenge in a different country, the format?
So it was very exciting to be able to add on Australia as one of our regional partners, and to move into a new continent, and to recognize the importance of Braille Challenge and the excitement that surrounds it. We see in our partners, they recognize the significance of this program for their students. So bringing the program to Australia has been very smooth. We designed our program to be a program in the box. So we provide all of the contests and all of the information that a new regional partner would need to host a Braille Challenge. So they have all the instructions that their proctors would need. They have the contests that their students get to use. We have templates for everything and how to recruit volunteers to help the day run smoothly. So we do everything on our end to support any agencies or schools or even groups of teachers who wish to proctor Braille Challenge to their students. We work to make it as smooth as possible, because we know that this is something that's offered outside the classroom, and teachers are really busy with everything else that they have going on and serving their students, and we want to make this as smooth as possible. So getting this to Australia, it did take a little bit longer for those boxes to arrive, but really we did our best to get them everything they needed to host a successful program.
I love it, the plug and play. And David, you attended a Braille Challenge, didn't you?
I did. I've never seen so many Perkins Braillers in one spot before. I think there was 38 of them, and it brought back memories from school. I've lost the sound of the historic sound of Perkins Braillers happening. So that was good. It reminded me when I was 8 years old, a long time ago. But no, look, it was good. Royal Society for the Blind, now called See Differently in Australia, they brought the Braille Challenge in, and I attended last year. Very enthusiastic. The students were, you could see everyone in different rooms doing their different tests, and they came out and had to play with all the tech stuff outside. And it was just a really great environment, because sometimes, you get the naysayers that, Braille's dying, and it was just great to see volunteers, parents, families, professionals, everybody else getting very enthusiastic. So I was absolutely amazed. So it was good, and I believe this year, See Differently is trying to get it to be more of a national event. And of course, me/HumanWare will be participating once again. So, no, it was actually really great to be part of it.
And the beauty of that is, and this is where, again, I not to start the Braille debate, we're not going to play Braille debate here, but the beauty of unified English Braille is at play, right? Because previously, a Braille event, a Braille-centric event could take place in the U.S., and that plug-and-play mentality that, Madeleine, you just talked about, if you wanted to shift it over to Australia or to the UK or to New Zealand or to South Africa or to any English-speaking place, the Braille code itself would be different. And that is no longer the case. And so I think, again, we get into, and we all have a preference, and maybe some of us, out there certainly do still prefer the old Braille. But if you look at an opportunity like this, where a kiddo sitting in Australia can compete with a kiddo sitting, in school in the UK, can compete with somebody in Florida, and they can all be doing and kind of working through the same content to eventually, be in the finals if they're selected, if they win their regionals. That is what is so neat, and that is where the plug and play method that you referenced, Madeleine, is clearly, it's working, and that is in large part thanks to UEB. So I think that's really neat.
Absolutely. And with that, in the last year, we've even been able to add on another country, and we're now doing Braille Challenge in Ireland as well. So it really speaks to the power of our ability to just work with so many different countries, and how ever expanding the reach of Braille challenges, which is just so fantastic.
Actually, Madeleine, I've got a question. Are students just meant to use only a Perkins, or can students use other electronic devices? So I've had my Perkins since 1974, and it's still going, but I'm just wondering, are you looking at expanding to more electronic devices in the future, or is it pretty much still the Perkins stuff that children start off with at school?
We've done research on potentially adding on the digital format to the contest, but for now we are sticking with the Perkins Brailler because it keeps the competition even across the board for every student that participates. There's no advantage to being on a device that they may perform faster on, or whatever it may be. So to just keep it even with all of the students who participate each and every year, we use the Perkins Brailler.
Okay, yeah, that makes sense. Yeah, good.
How does the listening piece work? Like if you have 7 kids, or hearing one passage and trying to Braille away, how does that happen?
Every student has access to some kind of audio device for the speed and accuracy contest. So
Gotcha.
They wear headphones, they use a device. Often for finals, for example, we provide Victor Reader streams.
Oh, we know what those are.
You may be familiar. And so they have the ability to rewind, fast forward, pause. So every student has their own. And so it's really not disruptive in the classroom.
I need to know, Rachel, when you did this, you obviously did really well because you went to LA, so you were like the top of the crew there. But the real question is, what was your favorite? What were you the worst at? That's what I want to know. Where did you really struggle?
You know where I struggle? I was just going to comment on, before we get to that, and it was tactile graphics, by the way. But before we get to that, I love that you guys use Victor Streams, because when I went through, they used tape players, man. And I think it was either a foot pedal or something, so you could pause and rewind
Awesome.
to get everything. I am pretty sure that's how that went. So the fact you guys use Victor Streams just is so cool, because it's so much easier to kind of rewind, fast forward to make sure that you get everything.
But you struggled with charts and graphs. Let's talk about the real question.
Charts and graphs, man.
Charts and graphs.
Charts and graphs. That was tough. So many more advances have been made to make those graphics, easier to read and whatnot, and we've just come such a long way.
I'm glad you say it, though, because we talk a lot about not just Braille literacy, but especially now with the Monarch, and a lot of what we're doing and what we're trying to do as a whole for the all blind kiddos out there, for all blind people out there, is develop and create a better way for us to develop tactile graphic or graphical literacy, because we just don't see enough graphics. So sometimes the reason isn't that you were bad at consuming that tactile graphic, it's just that we don't feel enough charts and graphs. We really don't. And if the more we're exposed to that kind of material at younger ages, I think the better we all can be at performing on charts and graphs. But I don't know. I think it's ultimately what we want to see. And I'd be very curious if we were to come back in 25 years. So I'm not sure, Madeleine, what you're doing on May something 2050, but we can schedule it now. I can look how far forward my Outlook calendar goes.
I'll accept the calendar invite.
If we were to start in 20 years and kind of look, though, at have the charts and graph scores gone up in any way, shape, or form with the advent of the, kind of dynamic tactile devices that are out there, be it Monarch and be it others that have come and will continue to come onto the scene. I'd love to know if that's impacted the tactile literacy, if you will, of graphics. And I think it will. I really think it will. But it'd be interesting to see, because that's one of our goals. I wanted to ask, so in terms of the competition, is there any, categories that may be added or anything else? Are there any changes? How often does the content get refreshed? Because obviously, blind kids are really good at memorizing things. I guarantee you there are some blind kids that have memorized that entire challenge and they think they're going to get the same one next year and they're going to crush it, and then they show up and it's different content. But how often does it get refreshed?
So the content itself is refreshed every year. We work with a group of contest developers.
Hear that, kids? Every single year.
So memorize all you want. It's good practice, but it won't help you the year after. So we work with a group of contest developers who are teachers, professors, and professionals in the field who work with students, who help develop the content, ensure that they're age appropriate and challenging for our students. So every year the content itself gets refreshed. We've had the same age categories and proofreading, reading comprehension, speed and accuracy, charts and graph spelling. Those are all staples of the Braille Challenge program. But most recently, we've added a new category called foundational. And this category is for all students learning Braille. So Braille Challenge in the past has really been about Braille excellence, and the introduction of the foundational category brings more students to the table, because Braille learners are on all areas of the spectrum. Maybe a student recently lost their vision and they're in 10th grade, and the Braille Challenge competition is not for them because they don't have the speed to keep up with their peers, for example. But we want to motivate that student. We want them to be excited about Braille literacy and learning and practicing. So foundational might be the right place for them. Or maybe a student who is just in the preliminary, very early stages and may not have the capacity to learn up until a 12th grade level of Braille. Maybe the foundational category is best for them. So this is something that we introduced, inspired by regionals who were already doing this with some of their students. We worked with Dr. Adam Wilton, who's been on the Braille Challenge Advisory Committee, because he and his team in Braille Challenge in British Columbia, Canada, they were doing this and designing contests for their students who were most appropriate for foundational. So we're proud that we are offering this across the board to all of our Braille Challenge regionals. And this past year, 20% of our Braille Challenge participants were in the foundational category. So there's absolutely a need there. And we hope to see this category grow and serve more students.
That's really cool too, because I think that it's very challenging for, certainly for adults who are neurodivision loss to learn Braille, but definitely those dual learners or those students who maybe didn't start learning like I did or Rachel did or David did when we're in first grade, kindergarten, where they really struggle, because they're just reading, like, it just feels like they're babied into it, right? They're starting with these books that are meant for 3-year-olds, and so, but they're 16 or 17, and it's just a major struggle, and they certainly isn't something they really want to be doing anyway. So I love it. I absolutely love it. I guess the last question that I have is about so if someone is interested, because we will have people listening from all over the place, and if somebody is interested in, I know it takes a lot, a gaggle, I'm going to say, of volunteers, certainly, to put these things together. What can somebody do? How does somebody say, well, I have like 10 to 12 Braille, readers or learners in my area, and I'd love to start to explore how this can be done, because we see it can kind of grow from the ground up. How would they go about doing that?
There's a couple options here. So if a teacher has a few students with whom they work and they'd be interested in offering Braille Challenge to them, on a small scale, we offer TVI proctored Braille Challenge. So a TVI can order contests and proctor Braille Challenge either one-on-one or in a small group and host their own mini Braille Challenge that way. If they're interested in starting a regional, and oftentimes that is how a regional starts, very small scale, and then they get their colleagues and peers and families and school administration on board, and it turns into a regional that's hosted by a school or an agency, they can reach out to us and get all the information that they need to get that started. Sometimes a new Braille Challenge regional, just host the contest. And that's really what our primary goal is to offer Braille Challenge to the students. And then maybe the next year they add parent workshops, or they add guest speakers, or different aspects of the program, or an awards ceremony. There's different ways to add to the program each and every year. But the best way is just to reach out to us, and we can talk about all the different ways that you can host Braille Challenge in your area.
And Braille Institute, I mean, it's an organization that's been around for over 110 years?
It's 106. We were founded in 1919.
106. I was close. And there's so many different things that Braille Institute offers. So it's a phenomenal organization in the Los Angeles area, and does so much. And I mean, clearly it's been the impetus of Braille Challenge spreading all over the world.
Hey, you know what, Peter? I just had a thought. Maybe all of us should try and do the Braille Challenge and test our knowledge out after all these years and see how we go.
Peter and I have talked about this.
I like that, David. Let's go. Let's have a Braille Challenge for adults. That'd be awesome.
Have you ever thought about coming to an event and doing an adult Braille Challenge for funsies, Madeleine? Has that ever come up? I mean, is it something that, I mean, obviously it'd be for just, or maybe do it for charity or something like that. Has that ever been thought about?
This is not the first time I've heard about an adult Braille Challenge. People have reached out to us multiple times about their interest in that. It's not off the table. I think this is something that so many people would enjoy hearing about. I know our youth students would get such a kick out of knowing that adults are doing Braille Challenge like that in itself.
Oh my goodness. And imagine we put it on Twitch, it's like a Twitch thing. And it's like a live stream. So it's a little different. Like, we're being proctored in real time, I think, is how you make it really funny. And it's yeah, we're going to take this offline. We're going to make this happen. It's going to be a lot of people we know from the field, teachers. It could be, many blind people. I think we need to do some throwdowns.
It sounds like fun to me.
Stay tuned, world. David, you've started a revolution. We're going to call it the David Woodbridge Adult Braille Challenge. Yeah, that's how we're doing it. Madeleine, thank you so much for joining and talking about Braille Challenge. And I'm looking forward to another awesome, finals competition in LA. And I just really am happy you could come on and talk about this and spread the word. And I know you don't need the word spread. It's spreading very fast and far, but really appreciate your time and just coming on and talking about this.
Yeah, Peter, thanks so much for having me and for participating in Braille Challenge in all the many ways that you've supported it. And we're proud of how far we've come in 25 years, and we look forward to many, many more years. So thank you.
We will be there June 20, what is it? Let me see. Hold on, 27th and 28th, correct?
Yeah, 26, 27, 28. We've added an extra day in celebration of our 25th.
Awesome. And we will be in LA, and HumanWare has provided brilliant Braille displays for our winners. And that's certainly something we have been part of for a long time, and will continue to support Braille Challenge in its regions and its different parts of the world, and certainly at our national finals. Welcome back to the cringe-worthy part of the show. And this month, actually, David is live with us. He's always live with us. I don't think you're ever not here, David, but you are in your home, correct?
I am.
And you've come back from a conference, and you have a fresh cringeworthy story that I think we could go with. You actually have two of them, so you can actually take your pick on which one we go with, and I certainly have one as well. But David, what happened? What was going on? What was cringy?
I haven't had this happen to me for a very long time. So I got to the airport, as you do when you're flying back from somewhere, and I said, I need meet and greet assistance from, the check-in to the gate. So what turns up is a wheelchair. And I said, no, I'm blind. I don't have a physical disability. Oh, no. We need to put you in this wheelchair, but I don't need a wheelchair. Oh, no, but that's the only way that we can take you. So I thought, no, stuff it. I thought my wife's in a wheelchair, so I'll just channel my wife when she needs to walk long distances. So I got in there, went through security, I got out of the wheelchair, and then I said, can I walk to the gate now? And they went, oh, no, we've got a special buggy.
You got the beepy cart. The beepy cart.
I did, because I said, it's such a long way, you won't be able to walk that far. So I got in the buggy. And then when I got to the gate, they said, we'll try and organise so that you can go up the lift. And I thought, no, all right, sorry guys, that's it. So I just said, no, look, honestly, guys, I put up with the wheelchair, I put up with the buggy, I am not going up the lift. I am quite capable of walking up 15 or whatever it is, 20 stairs. And then when I got to the stairs, there was somebody walking behind me and in front of me just to make sure that I didn't fall down.
I think, honestly, one of the hardest parts of it is sometimes it is so much easier just to say, okay, I will get in the chair, or I will get in the cart. Very rarely will I get in the chair, but I certainly have gotten in the cart. And mainly I get in the cart when there's like 3 other people, and I realize I am not going to win, and I just want to get where I need to go. As someone who uses an assistant, so generally I do the same thing. When I get to an airport, which I am in many, I will ask for a gate assist. Now, some, out there may use IRA or may use other methods by getting through. My point has always been, I am here, I'm working, I have got to get from point A to point B. And let's face it, I want to go to the lounge, I want to get in, and it's going to be a lot quicker and more efficient with an assist. And so usually we can talk our way out of it. But gosh, you got like the quadruple whammy. Yeah, I had one this month. So my routine with my daughter, who is 4, is on Saturday mornings, she and I will go to somewhere, and she likes to go get donuts, so I end up taking her here. We have a very, very popular, America runs on Dunkin', which was Dunkin' Donuts, and now you can't say Dunkin' Donuts, it's just Dunkin' at this point. But I take my daughter to Dunkin', and the Dunkin' we go to is in a very large commuter train station. So I live in the middle of Chicago, and we don't go to one kind of on a street corner in a shopping plaza. We go to one that's more in a food court in a big train station. Now, I have lived where I am for many, many years. I mean, I know my way around, but it's the city, and there's just always going to be random construction and things. So we're on the bus, and we were about to get the donuts. We have this rhythm, and our rhythm was busted because we get off the bus, and right away there's a fence, at curb. Basically, get off the bus, you step down, and it's before you hit the sidewalk, there is a fence. And I think, oh no, this is not going to be the easiest sort of traversing. But I mean, I have done this many times. Now, immediately the bus driver starts giving me, and some other random person start giving me instructions, like I'm part of a video game. They're like yelling left. I swear, I think one person yelled up. I don't know what that means. I didn't know if I was supposed to go up the fence. I didn't know. I mean, or they thought like up meant straight, like they were using a joystick. I don't know. But regardless to say, I had asked, I said, is there along this, generally when they put up a fence, there's some scaffolding. Is there something I can walk along to avoid the cars? Do I have to walk? I can't get on the sidewalk. No, it's closed. You have to go to the next block and cross over. So I said, that's fine. And my daughter is more than used to my shenanigans. So she's just like, okay, let's go, Dad. So, as soon as we get to the sidewalk, I'm walking in the right direction. I know what we need to do. But the bus just starts kind of creeping along at a very slow a very slow jaunt next to me. And I think, this is the bus I just got off of. And I think, oh no, this guy's watching. And now there is also, when you're being watched, it's like, it's going to happen soon. I'm about to get more yelling. It's going to happen. And sure enough, I approached the corner where there happened to be more construction cones. And the next thing I know, the bus driver is out of the bus telling me that he will help me cross the street. I think the people who work at airports are being helpful. The people who want to assist you, they are genuinely being helpful. It's just sometimes they don't want to hear when you tell them you don't need it. Or when you tell them you've got it, then they watch you. And the second you need to do some discovery, they're like, see, you don't know. And then they try to jump in. And that's where it gets tricky. Rachel, what do you have?
Interesting you had this bus like creeping along and trying to follow you. I had somebody who was taking me back from an appointment. And I said, okay, my house is this color and there's these landmarks in front of it. And they pulled over and I could tell that it wasn't the right house. They didn't drive far enough down the street. And they were insistent, like, I'm pretty sure it's it. I'm like, oh, yeah. Okay. So I got out and got my GPS and I was like, okay, we're a block up. And they're like, oh, no, I'm so sorry. Do you need me to drive you, a block forward? I was like, no, not at all. I know where I am. I've got this. And I'm walking along. It's a beautiful day. And I could just tell this car was slowly inching along. Like,
slinking along.
He is not leaving. Once I got to my house and I was like, okay, I verified that this was it. And he saw that. Then he sped up and went away. I was like, wow, he was, again, that structured discovery that you were talking about was coming into play. And he wasn't quite sure about it.
If you have a good story, feel free to send us a note, podcast@humanware.com. And I think there needs to be a new slogan. It'll be keep on cringing. Welcome back to the hot take. And this month, we have a topic that is near and dear to HumanWare's heart. This is a HumanWare podcast after all. We're in it to entertain and to be informative. But this topic is absolutely something that, has been a part of HumanWare for decades. And that is the note taker. And what I think, what I want to talk about is where we all see the relevance for or the usefulness of a note taker, and specifically a Braille note taker. Do we see the relevance, and how do we kind of see that shifting? Certainly, there was a time when the note taker was invented or became a thing in the late 80s and really took off in the early 90s, where it simplified word processing for a Braille user. And at first, it really was just a Braille input. There was no Braille output, really a Braille input device that allowed you to have word processing and organize some calendars and things. But it really served a purpose to simplify mainstream operating systems that were not nearly as accessible as they could be. Over the years, we've seen it change, and we definitely have seen the note taker evolve and turn into something that is more of a mainstream operating system. So if you look at what we're doing, you look at the HIMS or the HumanWare devices of today being, mobile OS based, so Android based. We know that many, sort of other devices have come and gone, or even are still around, that are more of a hybrid approach where they take an existing Braille display with a screen reader and kind of have that host device, but have some internal basic note-taking functions. And David, I'm assuming you've used and have had access to note-takers since the beginning. Where have you seen them change, and where do you think they'll go?
I could definitely see them being relevant, 45, maybe 40 years ago now. So, because then there wasn't anything else available. It's because we couldn't really have good, solid access to a computer. We needed some way of taking notes quickly and reading it back, particularly with speech and then later on Braille. And I think where things sort of morphed to over the years is that, we've now got a range of, what we tend to call smart Braille displays versus Braille note takers, and where do you keep your data? And unfortunately, I think the word note taker has sort of turned into, rather than being a great flexible thing to actually be able to, quote, take notes on, it's turned into oh geez, this thing's a bit limited, when I compare this to my iPhone and my iPad and my Android tablet. I really don't know why I'm doing this. So I think it's gone from a positive thing to a slightly negative thing. And where I'd love to see it going is it's your laptop, it's your desktop, it's your mobile device, it's running the operating system that sadly everybody in the world uses, which is Windows. Which I wish it was a Mac, but I'm big enough and old enough to admit the fact that nobody really uses Mac anymore.
That's not true. We have lots of passionate Mac users. They're going to come find you.
Oh, thank goodness for that. Oh, phew, thank you. But I would just love, I mean, where it's going, I would love to see a laptop, let's not call it a note taker anymore, a laptop that's got a Windows and a Braille display in it.
I think today's note takers are the Android-based ones. One of the hardest pieces is that what you're doing on those products is limited to a mobile environment. Since I've started at HumanWare, and I started before the advent of the original Braille Note Touch, it's been a wonderful thing to go to Android, an absolutely wonderful thing, because we've been able to install mainstream applications. We've been able to do all of this, and keep in mind, in a Braille first way. So the note taker does give you that Braille first OS. Sometimes we're in front of folks and they say, my kiddos, my users are going into senior year of high school and don't have good computer skills because all they want to use is their note taker, and that limits them. And I'll say, well, why would you let them only use their note taker? Don't do that. They need to be using screen readers. They need to be using mobile devices. They need to be using Braille. They need to be using a wide array of tools. I'm sure you've had that sort of come up, Rachel. I would guess.
A lot. There are concentrations of blind folks, maybe at blind schools or camps or something like that, and you hear them talking, and they're very involved with the note take, and I think that's fantastic. But I also caution teachers and students, don't pigeonhole yourselves into, I just use a note taker, I can run circles around you on my note taker, but if you put a computer in front of me, I have no idea what to do, and that's just a disservice. We never want to do a disservice to those that we serve, and I think note takers are, or whatever we want to call them, devices that allow us to take notes in a simple way and access what we need to. That has a wonderful place for students, but there's also a place for Braille displays, and we need to make sure that we're doing our best to transition our students to keep up in the workforce and later schooling.
Like some of the note taker infrastructure, the simplification of certain menus, some of that is very, very helpful. But I think when you're putting technology under the hands of a 3-year-old, 4-year-old, 5-year-old, which is absolutely where you should be exposing blind kiddos to technology, you definitely want to start with some sort of controlled environment.
I'm back to you guys about saying, you use whatever tool you've got available, and the more tools you've got, the more flexible you are. So even if you just say, well, thou shalt not ever use a note taker, or I'll just use my Windows laptop or my Mac or my Android device or whatever else, it doesn't matter what you're using. If you're only using one device to get you through the world for school, university or work, you're still limiting yourself. I picked the most appropriate tool at the time.
You will always find that a certain task works best for your workflow with a certain device. I do still see the relevance of the note taker, and I totally agree. And I think it's just a constant struggle, and something that I'm glad we can touch on, especially HumanWare being synonymous with the Braille Note, knowing that the current note taker, the Braille Note Touch Plus, is something that, as functional as it is and as great as it is for math and for that Braille-centric Braille user to be productive, some of the mainstream productivity is becoming very difficult as that device ages. So we need to be thinking about, what can we do? How can we pivot? And I think these are a lot of discussions that we've been having internally, and certainly I've been no stranger to say on different shows and podcasts and things I've been on. So I'm glad we could touch on it. Welcome back to the Partner Corner segment, everybody. And this month, we kind of float around the world. I know we've been to Canada, we've been to Australia, we have been to Europe, we've been in the Netherlands, we've been all over. We're going to welcome Alan Davis, who is HumanWare's General Manager of Sales for UK and Ireland. How are you doing, Alan?
I'm very well, Peter. Thank you for asking.
I'm glad you're here, because I think, I've been here 10 years. You've been here. How long have you been at HumanWare, Alan?
Oh my goodness, it's a long time. So I joined when it was Pulse Data, before the HumanWare company. But it's now 24 years. It's my 24th year.
That's awesome. You and Andrew, I think you're both at 24 years.
Yes, I remember when he started.
I feel like such a baby.
Yeah. I feel so old.
It's we always joke on the podcast that David Woodbridge shows his age, but I mean for the long time HumanWare employees, and I think it underscores that a lot of people here are here for a long time, and I can think of several. I mean, both on the UK team, on our team here in the US, and at the corporate kind of level, a lot of people come here and it becomes something they do for a very long time. It's more than simply a job or a career. It really is a passion. How did you get into this space? Did you have any experience with blind people before, or people who are visually impaired before this?
No, so this was totally new to me. And I was working, traveling a lot around, particularly around the Middle East, Scandinavia as well, and other parts of Europe, but a lot of traveling. Started a young family, looking for a new challenge. I wasn't desperate to move, but I wanted one that would be more in contact with people. I was sitting in meetings in Egypt for hours at a time, arguing over fractions of a percent discounts
That sounds joyous.
On a B2B business, and just wanted to get quite and always the final negotiations were always just as you were going back to the airport and you had a plane to catch, and so could I ask you, but so I wanted to make a change, and this position came available, which was fantastic, and why am I still here? Well, it combines. We do some business to business, but we're also doing business to consumer, and we're dealing with people sometimes of 5 years old up to 95 and above. There's not many companies and businesses where you're involved in that range of customers. They're all very, very different, and it appealed to me from day one that it was a job that would help. I'd be very satisfied because it was helping people. So, and that's what it's proven to be. 24 years later, I'm still here. Hopefully, what we do each day helps people. We're here to make things easier and better, not harder and worse. And as I say, it's a fantastic variety of people that we come into contact with, which is really great in the UK because we have this direct sales force. So it's rather a different setup to other parts of the HumanWare divisions, in that we are going into people's homes. We're going to see Mrs. Jones, and we're going to schools to see primary and secondary and universities. We're going into the workplace to meet people in the work with all different types of products. And it's very satisfying what we do, and seeing these successes. And over 24 years, I've seen people through their schools, and I've seen them when they go into work, say, I know you. And it's really very satisfying that our technology makes a difference in their lives one way or another. And that's very, very satisfying. And hopefully they feel well looked after.
I think what's interesting, and you bring it up about the more direct sales channel and kind of approach that the UK team has, and here in the US and certainly kind of in North America, we tend to follow a more distributor approach system, and mainly it's geographic location. I mean, I joked with Andrew one time, he was like, why can't you just take a train to where you want to go? And I said, Andrew, it'd be like 4 days, man. I can't take a train. But geographically, we have such a big area. And I think that a lot of our sales reps and kind of our general approach is to be very knowledgeable, but to also work through a large amount of highly knowledgeable distributors. I think for your team with, in the UK, where that approach is more direct, you almost become extremely well-rounded, because like you said, you may work with a 7-year-old child or a 97-year-old new to vision loss, somebody who just wants to read a book. And that, that really must keep you on your toes, and also keeps you very current with exactly what's going on the ground, be it all across every spectrum of customer, right? I mean, you have to really think on your feet.
You're absolutely right. We have to be very, adapt to different situations, and we have to train our staff well on knowing all our product portfolio. So they're all trained to a set level where we train them and update them regularly on all the new features and new benefits, make sure they understand how they can impact people and benefit people. So our staff are trained. We have 6 salespeople in the UK. They're so geographically based. And you're right, Peter, we're very fortunate here. It's a relatively small country with a relatively high population. So we've got, that sort of combination where we can reach people, and there are people there to be reached. And we also supported, I'm very fortunate, a gentleman who's Martin Roberts, some people know on the podcast, who's been with me for over 20 years. He travels all around the country, he's blind, and he's more of our sort of product specialist on the Braille technology, where we need that extra knowledge, that extra level of expertise. So Martin supports all our salespeople during the week in those where extra help is required. And we're very lucky. We've got a good support team. We've got our own trainers. We've got a support team. We've got technicians. So if technology does need repairing for whatever reason, it comes back to our office here. Our technicians can repair all our products. The majority are HumanWare products, but we do support a couple of other third-party products to complement our range. And we make sure that all our products can be repaired here. We don't have to send things back to Canada or elsewhere. So people are without their product for a minimum period of time. Hopefully what we can bring to the table here in the UK is that experience of being with those customers of all varying different levels and needs. We have that first-hand experience. I mean, when we launched our low vision products, with Connect, we were selling hundreds of them in schools. But we only sell them because we go into the schools and we actually show it to the student, and we show it to the sports staff, the specialist teacher and the class teacher and the mum and dad if they're there. We're doing that hands-on. Then we're going to see someone else in the afternoon doing the same thing. So I think we are very fortunate in the UK. We have that direct hands-on knowledge of being with the end users. And they have one thing in common. They have that level of varying levels of sight loss, but they're very different individuals and have different needs for the technology they're using.
Well, fantastic, and thanks for just continuing to be a part of all of this, because I know it's a long road, right? And we just keep going, and I know we have a lot of things that are coming and that are around and that we continue to support on. So glad you could come on and we could kind of spotlight. You're not a traditional partner per se. You're a HumanWare employee. You are more than a partner. You are part of the fabric.
It's in the blood.
In the blood. So thank you for joining, and we we'll look forward to hopefully having other members of the UK team on. So thanks a ton, Alan.
Thanks, Peter. Nice speaking to you. All the very best.
Hey everybody, it's Peter Tucic from HumanWare, and I am going to be demonstrating the all-new pedestrian traffic signal detection feature that we have on the Stellar Trek. I'm standing outside. It is a windy day, which is actually a great time to promote this feature, because sometimes when it's windy, you cannot perfectly hear the parallel traffic that may be indicative of a green light. So what I'm going to do is go for a little walk, and we're going to dive in and look at how we're going to use this beta feature that is available for all Stellar Trek users on our Stellar Trek. Let's go. All right, everyone. So I'm approaching the intersection of Taylor Street and Racine Avenue here in Little Italy in Chicago, passing my favorite corner. This is a good one. We have cigars, wine, pizza, coffee. It's all here.
The intersection with traffic light, West Taylor Street crossing South Racine Avenue.
So again, we get the announcement, as the Stellar Trek does. It tells me this is a lighted intersection and that we are going to be coming up to it, and about 20-30 feet before we actually get here. Now once I'm at this intersection, what I'm going to do, and I know that this light is red because I can tell my parallel traffic's here, but I'm going to press and hold my up arrow on the Stellar Trek, and when I do that,
applications, pedestrian crossing detection.
The first option here is pedestrian crossing detection. Again, this would be to locate the crosswalks. That's not what we're trying to do, but I'm going to press confirm on that option.
Camera ready.
And at this point, it would be if I wanted to identify the zebra stripes on the street, which is not what I'm looking to do. What I can do, though, is if I press confirm, so again, we can come into our pedestrian crossing feature and press confirm, and I will then receive a series of tones based off of the traffic lights. So I'm going to do that now. I'm going to press confirm.
Detecting traffic signal.
And what will happen is when I'm at this intersection, we will scan, and upon scanning, I will receive a series of tones. Again, and if I need to, and this is kind of, so we get a green light detected message, and you'll hear that rapid tones, meaning that at this point I can cross this street. I also do hear my parallel traffic, so let's go across. Now again, as I cross, I'm going to continue to receive this auditory feedback that is going to cue me in as to whether I'm crossing straight or if I'm possibly veering to get out of the intersection. Now that I'm across, again, we're going to cross this way as well. I'm going to turn, and this time, instead of getting that, since I'm on this, again, it's picking up the green light as I turn. Let's wait through this light cycle, though, and we're going to pick it up when it is back at a red light so we can hear how that sounds. All right, so I'm back at the same intersection, and again, this time I'm at a red light, and you will receive these incremental slow tones that are going to be indicative that they're telling me this light is red. I certainly can hear my parallel traffic is stopped next to me, and I definitely hear cars coming in front of me, so I know that as well. Again, this is a reinforcement of my existing skills, and now this light has turned, and I can confirm that it has indeed turned, so I'm going to cross the street. Again, as I cross, we're going to receive the feedback, and I just put that down because I wanted to know where the siren was that I'm hearing. But I can use that as I cross the street as well. I'm going to cross this one again, but we'll catch up later on. All right, everyone, I'm right back where I started, but I want to reiterate what we just went through because it might have been a little bit loud, and we certainly hear some kiddos playing in parks here. But what I was doing when I was at that intersection, I pressed and held my up arrow to get me into my applications area on the Stellar Trek. Once I was in that, the first option was pedestrian crossing detection. I pressed confirm on, which is the center button between your arrow keys. And once I was on the pedestrian crossing detection, I pressed confirm again to bring up the pedestrian traffic signal detection, where I could then hold my Stellar Trek up, allow the cameras to see the intersection, and tell me via tones if that was the signal was present or not, whether the light was green or red. Keep in mind, if I did veer, I would lose that tone, so I would know I was starting to veer. Also, this is something that is going to be in beta. We certainly want to collect a lot more data as we look at how this is going to be implemented. We are not able to be everywhere all the time and cannot test every intersection, so there will be some that maybe don't work as well or at all, and we'd love to be able to gather that information from all of your units as you use the product to help us build our models. Again, this is an entirely offline AI model that is being utilized to run on the units. If you do so choose, you can share those units with us. You can share the pictures. We can have a look at them and determine, how that will help us build our model. But if you do not want to share your intersection photos and videos, you can certainly turn that off in settings, and we certainly respect your right to choose to do that. Let us know if there is anything further that you would like to see on the Stellar Trek. You can certainly send us an email at info@humanware.com. Thanks, everybody. All right, everybody, it's time for the upcoming shows. It is the summer show season here in North America. We will be at the American Council of the Blind conference. That'll be taking place from July 4th to the 11th at the Hyatt Regency in Dallas. Please come see us. We'll be exhibiting. We also, Rachel will be giving some sessions, and we would love to demonstrate lots of fun new things. There may even be a multi-line screen reader demonstration available. So come say hello. We'll also be at the National Federation of the Blind Conference taking place in New Orleans. That'll be at New Orleans Marriott, also at the Sheraton New Orleans. That'll take place from July 8th to the 13th. Again, we'll have a user group. We'll have a booth of fun. We will have demonstrations. And certainly there are many, many different ways we interact at all of those conferences. So come say hi to one of us who will be at the booth. And we look forward to seeing you at a table, at a booth near you sooner than later.
If you have comments or suggestions, we'd love to hear from you. Please send them to podcast@humanware.com. That's podcast@humanware.com. Thanks so much for listening to See Things Differently. We'll see you next month.